Okay, girly, you want to be an it girl, but what exactly even is an it girl? Here's my definition. An it girl is someone who always, no matter what, always takes accountability. Accountability when it comes to her own health, her own mindset, her own inner child, her own relationships, her financial matters, literally all the important elements of her life. She always asks herself one important question, and that is, what role am I playing in my suffering? What role am I playing? She always takes accountability. In today's video, I'm going to share with you guys the 7 books you need in order to enter your it girl era. I have shortlisted 7 elements that are key when it comes to becoming an it girl, because an it girl is all about mastering these 7 elements. Also, at the very end of the video, I'm going to help you guys with tips on how to read and how to become that girl who's always reading books and elevating her life. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Hi, if you're new here, my name's Maryam, and on my channel we talk about all things girlhood, so that's all things self-love, becoming the best version of yourself, fashion, lifestyle, all things girlhood. The first element of your life you need to master in order to become an it girl is your inner world, your inner child, the traumas you carry. Nicole LePera's book, How to Do the Work, is the best place to start. But what even is your inner child? Your inner child is the younger version of you that still is with you and will always be with you until you're literally 90 years old. She's always there with you emotionally, not physically, but emotionally, she's always within you. Have you ever wondered why certain things impact you more than others and vice versa? How certain things bring you so much joy, and to your friend or to your sibling, they don't really care about those things as much? It's because you are so different. We're all so different. I promise you, once you learn who you are, your inner child, your traumas, your patterns that you may be having, it becomes so much easier to enter a whole new era of your life, because knowledge is power. When you know who you are at a deeper level, you know what your needs are and you know how to actually meet them. And when you read a book like this one, How to Do the Work, it helps you understand your patterns, your traumas, your tendencies. If you've always been confused or curious as to why certain things impact you more than others and vice versa, this is the perfect place to start. It's one of the books where when you're reading it, you realize how much of your adult behavior is rooted in your childhood experiences, is rooted in the traumas you carry, and how your inner child feels, whether it feels safe or not. The next element when it comes to becoming an it girl is about your mindset. I have read so many books when it comes to psychology and the mind and mindset, and I will tell you, the one book, the only book you really need when it comes to your mindset is Psycho-Cybernetics. Fun fact, this book is actually written by an author who is also a plastic surgeon. What drew me to the book was how we have this general idea that if or when we go to the plastic surgeon and fix our nose, our lips, our teeth, etc., whatever it may be, we will then become happier with how we look. We will then love ourselves. I will be happy when XYZ, XYZ, XYZ. It's that same model we use with the state of our features, with the state of how we feel about ourselves. But what's very interesting is that the author of this book noticed something super interesting, how some people, when they got plastic surgery, actually walked away from his office super happy and they, loved themselves immediately. But some people actually didn't. He noticed something super interesting about the human mind is that plastic surgery, the physical alterations to your face, is not what actually dictates whether you will love yourself or you won't. It's actually to do with your self-image. And when you read this book, you learn about your self-image, its power, how literally when you master your self-image, you can do and be whoever you want to be, because it all comes down to how you view yourself. And if you're wondering what exactly is self-image, so here's a quick definition. Your self-image is the blueprint your brain uses to show up as the person that you are. For example, every girl subconsciously plays a role in her life, either the quiet one, the awkward one, or the one who always gets hurt. You see, these are these subconscious stories we tell ourselves about ourselves, our self-image, and your mind, your brain starts to act it out in autopilot, and you're not locked in that identity. You're just practicing it every day without actually consciously being aware of it. But you can change that, and that's the power this book holds. Okay, this book here, Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, has been one of my favorite books for the longest time. Honestly, you guys, if there is anything you take away from today's video, it should be this, because sleep is the most important thing out there for you.
What's the point of using all the skincare products if you're not even ensuring your sleep is good?
Because that's where your body regenerates itself. I wish I could articulate how important this element is in your life, and this book will do that job for you, because take it this way. If your body is not feeling 100% 100% every single day because of your poor sleep, how do you expect yourself to become the version of yourself you want to be? It's gonna feel hard. You're gonna want to give up, even when it comes to your fitness goals, because when our sleep is not in check, our hormone levels such as leptin and ghrelin are disrupted. When ghrelin increases, so does our hunger. And when we don't sleep well, when we don't sleep enough, or when our sleep quality is diminished, you know, because of all the caffeine you're taking throughout the day after 2 p.m. when you're trying to sleep by 11 p.m. When your sleep quality is diminished, your ghrelin level spikes up, which is basically your hunger hormone. You feel hunger throughout the day, you eat more, and also not only is your hunger hormone up, your satiety levels, the hormone that signals to your brain how satiated you feel, leptin, is also down. So you feel hungrier and you feel less satisfied. So that's honestly such a dangerous duo when it comes to your health. There is just so much you learn about your health and how you're negatively impacting your health without even knowing when it comes to your sleep. And when you improve your sleep, when you practice good sleep hygiene that you learned through this book, your life will literally change because you feel like a whole new person. You all of a sudden have so much energy. You don't feel like you're dying every single day. Life is just good because you've read this book. Okay, there's a reason that this book is a classic. Becoming an it girl is not only about working hard, it's also about working smart. And that's exactly what you learn when you read Atomic Habits by James Clear. I read this book at least 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, and I still implement all of its learnings every single day, even today. The one main key principle I learned in this book is that our brains are always naturally wired to take the path of least resistance. And if you really deep what that's saying, if you really deep that insight, it becomes so much easier to trick your brain to doing the things that you used to hate, but now it feels so much easier to do. It's because you've removed resistance from the things that you need to do. This book breaks down how tiny habits, how tiny changes leads to exponential change in your life. The 1% rule. It's the perfect place to start reading if you feel like you're always stuck in a rut. You can never really stick to a plan. You can never really stick to any routine. It's the book you need to read. Okay, and now it's all about learning how to become that social butterfly. Even if you feel like you're the most awkward person ever, I promise you, if you read this book here, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, you guys, I read this book as well, I think like 5 or 6 years ago when I was, you know, just out of uni, when I was trying to network and meet people for my jobs, etc. I read this book and there are so many key learnings from this book that I still apply in my day-to-day today. Essentially, it's the kind of book you read when you want to know how to become a better person in social settings. When you always feel like you're being awkward, or you know, you're not a good socializer, or you cannot strike up conversation with strangers, this is a great place to start. It talks about things like when you minimize criticism and you replace the but, you know, like you're good at this, but you're not good at that. When you replace the but with an and, it changes the whole dynamic of a conversation. It's, for example, instead of saying you're good at A, but not at B, you could say you're good at A and you should implement that in B. It's a very sneaky trick, but you learn tricks like how to influence a conversation and how to make the conversation's outcome be exactly what you want it to be. And you just learn so many little tips and tricks on how to talk to people, how to get people interested in what you have to say. You learn so many key social things through this book. If you feel like you're saying things like, oh, I'm just not a social person, or I'm just an awkward person, I'm gonna stop you right there, because being an it girl is all about taking accountability. If you tell yourself that
I'm just not good at this, I'm just bad at this,
your brain will only allow you to function within the limitation that you've set for yourself. And being an it girl is all about understanding your own tendencies, taking accountability, and letting go of all the limiting beliefs that are holding you back. And now let's talk about something that we all feel uncomfortable to talk about, which is money and all of our financial matters. Becoming an it girl is all about understanding and embracing uncomfortable conversations, because that's where you know the most growth is. And no one really likes to talk about money and, you know, how to save, how to invest, how to do this, how to do that. And here's where you need to read the book Rich AF by Vivian too. This book here is honestly such an easy to read book when it comes to money, because you learn all the jargon, all the fluffy, all the fancy words people use here and there, and you learn what it actually means, because she breaks it down for you in such an easy to read and an easily digestible way. And honestly, becoming an it girl is also learning your finances, because you know as an it girl that money is such an important element in all of our lives, and there's no point, there's no need from escaping it or trying to pretend it doesn't exist, because that's not going to serve you. And lastly, becoming an it girl is also learning about your heart and how to show up in relationships. And this book here attached is such a good book when it comes to learning your own tendencies in relationships, because it teaches you about the different attachment styles: secure, anxious, avoidant, fearful, avoidant, and you learn which ones you identify with and how that impacts it or how that influences how you show up in relationships. The 4 types of attachments are secure, which the core belief there is that I can depend on others and others can depend on me. And the second one is anxious, and the core belief in that is that I need to fight for love or I'll lose it. The third one is avoidant, and that the belief is that I can't depend on people. People aren't reliable, so I'd rather just be more by myself. You are hyper independent with this attachment style. It's the belief that depending on people leads to disappointment, in brackets, always. And the fourth one is fearful avoidant, and that it's basically I want to feel loved, but it feels so unsafe. It doesn't feel familiar. When you read this book, it's basically like a manual on how to have a healthy and fulfilling relationships, because it teaches you so much. You'll learn so much about the different ways people show up in relationships, and knowledge is always power. The more you know, the better you can show up in the world. Okay, now let's talk about the tips on how to read. I know I'm saying this right after sharing 7 books with you, but do not buy more than 2 books at once. Yes, it's good to have 2 books so you can rotate between one and the other when you feel bored of one, but never buy more than 2. Focus on reading more instead of buying more. You know what I mean? The second way to read is by telling yourself, I will only read 1 page every single day. And now what this does is that it tricks your brain into reading more, because reading 1 page a day is actually really easy. So when you start reading, it snowballs into you reading more, but you don't have to read more than 1. Some days you can just read 1 and that's enough. But what you'll find is that when you do pick up a book and when you read a page, you're more likely to go on to the next page, because the hardest thing is to start, and when you start, it just gets easier. And the third way to read more is through habit bunching, and it's basically when an existing habit, maybe something like drinking coffee or riding the bus, can be a trigger for a new habit. For example, every time you drink your morning coffee, you read 1 page, so that's habit bunching. Or every time you ride the bus, you read 1 page, so you're habit bunching. So it's basically when an existing habit reminds your brain or triggers you to read a book. Fourth way is through slow and consistent reading. We are not in the book Olympics. Honestly, it's much better to read 1 to 2 pages slowly and intentionally and actually action the things you're reading, over reading 20 pages and not even remembering what you read because you just read it for the sake of it. Honestly, it's way better to read slower and more intentionally than having read way more pages without even actioning anything, because like, what's the point of that case? And the next way is by journaling everything you're reading about. It's because if you're not actually actioning the things you're learning, if you're not writing it down or bringing it up in a conversation, it's harder for you to really have that new learning or that new habit stick to you. And also, the best way to actually solidify the things you're learning through your books is through bringing it up in conversations, bringing up your new learnings in conversations and telling your friends, because when we talk about a topic, it's easier for us to remember it. And lastly, what I personally like to do is to have a notes page just for the things I'm learning in my new book. So after I read a page or a chapter, I always make a bullet point of the things I've learned in the book, and then throughout the weeks or the months, I always like to go back to and just skim through it, just to refresh my brain on all the things I read about. Alright girlies, and that was everything for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. Let me know what book or what element you want to tackle first down in the comments below. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.